Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the BC Wine Show and Podcast. I'm Marnie Martin, your host, and I interview some of BC's top winemakers and industry pros as to how and why they do what they do and what they're up to next. On today's show, I have beautiful Aura Rose from the House of Rose Winery, and we are going to be talking about all things vegan wine. Make sure you stay with us to the end because we've got some beautiful wine to sample, some Christmas specials that we're going to be talking about, and a special code that gets you a discount for a limited time only. So grab yourself a glass of wine, and I'll see you on the inside. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the BC Wine Show and Podcast. I'm here today with my friend Aura Rose from House of Rose Winery up in Kelowna, BC, and we are going to be talking all things vegan wine. Hi, Aura. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad you could be with me here today. I've had so many of my viewers asking me about vegan wine and what it actually is, and I know you've got a lot of experience with that. So maybe give us a little bit of background as to how your winery ended up. I know you started out as non-organic and then ended up going to organic. So let's talk a little bit about that.
About organics first and then vegan?
Yeah.
Okay. So, when we purchased the winery in 2009, we actually took it immediately organic. I didn't want either my husband or anybody working for us to be sitting on a tractor and spraying poison and be in a cloud of poison. And I also felt like, as farmers, we really need to take care of the earth. So it was important to us. It was a big challenge. We didn't realize how poor the soil was. In hindsight, before you go organic, you really should test your soil first, build your soil up, and then go organic. So we had a couple of challenges the first couple of years, but we've been very happy since that time to be organic. We're not certified. We could get certified. I struggle with all the paperwork there already is in the industry. So one of these days I will maybe spend a couple of weeks looking at how to get certified and going through the process of doing that.
Yeah, I know I have a lot of different friends that actually have reactions to certain kind of wine, and that drinking vegan wine actually is easy for them to do and it doesn't give them reactions. So when did you decide, were you always vegan wine at House of Rose, or did you kind of move into that later on in the organic process?
I would say also when we took over, after the first couple of years, we stopped using any animal products in our wine. At the beginning, we used gelatin in our white wines. And then by 2011, we were not using any animal products. And that was it was a personal choice of ours.
Yeah.
Winemakers use those products for a wide variety of reasons. And I find that I can make the wine as good as that without using the products. So
awesome.
But, everybody has their own opinion about what needs to go into wine.
Yes, of
course. I think for a lot of vegans, a lot of people people are interested in being vegans. A lot of people don't realize that wine is not vegan purely.
I know,
and if you ask, like at a wine shop, and this is what people say, I asked and they said, oh yeah, of course it's vegan. Many people working at the wine shop, at the winery, and in their small tasting room or larger tasting room, won't have any idea either that many wines are not vegan. So it's really important to ask the right kind of question if it's a concern to you, to say, how are your wines clarified? What are they clarified with? Does your winemaker add anything like albumin, which is egg whites, and if they can't answer those questions, then they cannot answer the question, is your wine vegan? So you have to not just ask, is your wine vegan? Because everybody's going to say yes, because most people think that wines are vegan. So it's really important for vegans to know that and how to ask the right question.
I think that's a great tip. And I think for anybody watching this, it's important to be able to ask those questions at the wine shops and even in the winery. I found that myself. And I actually had an experience with a customer who brought a bottle of wine back after his wife and him had it for dinner the night before. And she has a sensitivity to eggs. So he's like, look on the back of this bottle. It actually says eggs.
may contain eggs. And at that point was when I went, what is going on here? There's something else. So I think let's talk a little bit for maybe the people that don't really understand that what wine is clarified with, or why we clarify wine. And let's talk about that, and maybe what some of the other options that other winemakers are using, just to sort of, bridge the gap a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So white wines are easier to make vegan than red traditionally. White wines, when you clarify a wine, you want to clarify a wine because after a wine goes through ferment, it still has tiny little pieces of the skin, tiny little pieces from the yeast in the wine. And so we all expect to see a very clear wine when we pour it into our glass. We don't want it to be full of funny looking things. And so we use products to clarify. Traditionally, in white wine can be clarified two ways. One, using gelatin, which of course is ground up hooves. I know it doesn't sound very appetizing, but it's not. And the other way is to use bentonite, which is what we do. It's a clay, so it's made from the earth, and it basically, if you were a scientist, it basically grabs on. It's I don't know. I can never remember if it's the positive or the negative ions, and it grabs onto those little particles and brings them down to the bottom. And what you get in the tank is a very kind of solid sort of stuff at the bottom. Was that all those pieces floating in the wine, and then a very clear wine. And then you rack off that wine before you bottle it. So with white wines, many white wines around the valley, many white wines around the world would actually be vegan, but not all of them. A lot of red wines are not vegan because winemakers like to use albumum, which is what I said is egg whites, or isinglass, which is ground up bodies of shrimps and shellfish, basically, which is another issue sometimes for people. And they use that because it gives a really interesting mouthfeel usually to the wine, and does help settle the wine, but we're not as concerned about red wine being settled. That's why red wine, I have a bottle here of red wine. That's why red wine has a punt on the bottom. Those punts are so that the sediment can actually sit in the bottom of your red wine as it ages. So we're not as concerned about red wine being completely clear. We want it to be clear, but it's more the mouthfeel that those products give that why winemakers don't want to give it up. I'm not going to give away my secrets, but there are other ways to adjust mouthfeel and keep the wine vegan.
A little bit of magic that's what makes you guys special.
That's right. So one way to tell if a wine is vegan is if a winemaker actually I don't know if you can see this on our label. We have a label. It says vegan.
Vegan. Good.
Right. And we do that so that vegans can identify that they know that it's a vegan wine. Many wineries are making vegan wine, but aren't necessarily labeling it that. But as long as you ask the right questions at the winery, then they will find somebody who can answer your questions, usually.
Absolutely. And I don't think it's mandatory for winemakers to put that on the label, but that particular bottle I had did have may contain eggs, but I don't think that's standard protocol, is it?
No, it's not. It's not a mandatory labeling requirement in Canada to label. It is in some countries, but not in Canada. The argument is, and it's interesting that you said that your friend had this reaction to the eggs, because the argument is, by the time the wine is settled and racked and bottled, that the egg white that causes the allergic reaction won't be there to such a degree that you should get an allergic reaction.
Right.
Obviously, that's not the case for your friend, but that is the argument as to why we don't have to put those kinds of things on the label.
Right.
I'm not allergic to eggs, so I can't say, but yeah, obviously she's very, very, very sensitive. Yeah.
Yes. And I think too, people that generally have shellfish allergies, they're a little bit more extreme as well. So it's just a really interesting thing to be. Yeah. So to be able to help people understand that a little bit more, and to help them choose wines that are actually going to make them feel good in the end. So So have you found a good response and reaction from people when they find out your wine is vegan?
From some people, a lot of people say, well, isn't every wine vegan? We we hold actually a vegan market here a couple times this year, only once, a farmer's market that's all vegan products here in the vineyard at the winery here. And even vegans are often asking, well, I thought all wines were vegan. So now we have a big sign that explains exactly all the things that are in wine and why wine isn't vegan. And some vegans are relatively upset because maybe their favorite wine is not vegan.
Yes, of course. And it's just, I think it's a good conversation starter to open that door and help people to understand about what they're, I think we're all doing that with all kinds of foods that we consume these days. So why not with our wine? And you want to be able to enjoy it.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
Excellent. So we have some special stuff going on up at the winery as well. And I told all the listeners to hang on to the end because we're going to be tasting some wine and talking about some special events you've got going on up there and some sales that you've got happening too. So let's talk about that.
Okay. So we have a Christmas sale, December 12th and 13th at the winery. It's from noon until 5, both Saturday and Sunday. And one of the things that we do at Christmas is we make a wine that is called Rudolph's Red. Hopefully everybody can see that. It's just a fun way, something to have at your Christmas table. And it is, you have a bottle of it there, but it is actually during the year, it's our hot flash. So we're going to taste that in a minute. But I also wanted to talk about, we have a special on right now, and your clients are going to get, or your followers are going to get an even specialer deal. But right now we have free shipping on an order of a case or more, which is 12 bottles.
Right.
But we also have our 2 dessert wines on sale, which are 10% off. Now, anybody who goes into Shopify with your link will get an additional 10% off. They don't have to take 12 bottles if they don't want to. Shipping is not that much out to the island or other areas of BC, if that's where most of your followers are. It tends to be $10 or $15 at the most if they're taking 6 bottles. But with you, they'll get an even specialer deal. So they would get 20% off our dessert wine, which is pretty good. And I want to talk about our dessert wines because I'm pretty proud of our dessert wines, if you don't mind. And then let's taste a couple of wines after that.
Absolutely. Christmas is coming, and it's the best time of the year to have these beautiful wines at your dinner table.
That's right. So this is our port. We make, it's actually called Tawny. A lot of people don't realize that you cannot call anything port anymore unless it's made in the area of Porto in Portugal. And so just like champagne, we call it sparkling wine. Nowadays, we have to call our port differently. It is, we call it a tawny, which means that it's a sweet port. It's fortified, not with brandy. We fortify it. We have Okanagan Spirits, which is a local distillery here. They make for us they take Gewürztraminer. This has Gewürztraminer in it, and they distilled it down to an 82 proof. Would kill you if you drank it on its own. Yeah, it's pretty alcoholic.
Well, moonshine.
Yeah, that's right. Pretty darn good moonshine. Anyways, add a bit of that to fortify the port. And so our port's about 17.5%. And the nice thing that does is, as opposed to brandy, it's way smoother. It's a way smoother port. And this is a 2016, so it's already almost 5 years old. So it's a very nice, soft, smooth, wonderful port. Fabulous with dark chocolate. My favorite way of serving it, if you really wanted to be impressing people, is you get really good quality ice cream, vanilla ice cream, like vanilla bean ice cream. Shave some really dark chocolate over it, put a piece of dark chocolate in the ice cream, and then drizzle port on top. And then serve with your glass of port beside it to all of your guests.
How lovely.
Yeah.
There you go. Tip of the day. That's your holiday dessert recipe. And we'll make sure we put a link to that into the description too.
Yeah. And then the other dessert wine that we have is a very unique one. It's called winter wine. So winter wine was actually created by my dad, who started the winery in 1993. He wanted to make a dessert wine that was financially accessible and not near as, he found a lot of customers didn't like ice wine. It was too thick and too sickly, like too syrupy. We make a nice wine as well. We have a Riesling nice wine, but this wine is way more popular. So what this is it's a blend of ice wine late harvest, and wine. And so it's about 30% ice wine. So it's still almost as sweet as ice wine, but not as thick. And
nice.
It's really, really nice with cheeses late at night. That's how I love to serve it, or just on its own in a liqueur glass. And it's very popular. We sell a lot of it. And it's normally $30 with your discounts. It would be $24 for a bottle for Christmas. And it's a perfect gift, and it's a perfect thing to share.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's fun to share things that are just a little bit more special at the holidays, because you don't do that necessarily every day, but it's a really great that you actually have them on sale right now, so people can take advantage of that if they want to get some early Christmas gifts.
That's right. That's exactly right. So,
all right.
I see that you have rosé open, which is great.
I do.
So I wanted to talk about our rosé. So our rosé is a very interesting, fun label. It is 100% Canadian. We call it rosé. People often confuse our name because they think that we are the House of Rosé. And I'm always telling people there's no accented U over the E. It's House of Roses. Rose is my last name. That's why it's called House of Rose. But people come thinking they're going to have many different rosés. So that's not the case. We make one lovely rosé. I like this rosé. It's probably right now my favorite wine in our portfolio because it's dry and it's not strawberry. So that's a warning for people who love a little bit sweeter strawberry rosé. That's not what this is. This is really red currant. This is what I get. And then you can tell me, actually, Marnie, what you get. I get red currant, cranberry, and watermelon.
Okay. Yes. And this is actually one of my favorite rosés in my portfolio too. And I love it also because it's not sweet and it has that nice dry finish. And I do definitely get cranberry. And I always tout this as the perfect Canada Day wine, which is great on a hot summer day, but it's also an amazing comparison to, or a companion to, turkey and your Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner. So it's got those beautiful cranberry notes that just kind of really pull out that flavor.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to taste it and talk about it today, because I think it's perfect for Christmas Day. It is perfect for turkey, which many of us have. It's also really good with ham. And if you're a vegetarian, we make, because my husband's a vegetarian, we make a cashew nut loaf at Christmas and with a wine sauce. And I will use this actually to make the wine sauce, because it will be a really nice cranberry kind of sauce for it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, maybe you can share that recipe with me. I don't know. Is that like, would you have to kill me?
The cashew nuts or the wine sauce?
Well, both.
The cashew nut recipe, the only scary thing about it is like you're using like half a pound or something of cashews. Like it's not a low-cal vegetarian loaf, let me tell you.
No, so it's a nice treat for the holidays as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is very much. Yeah.
Well, that would be fun to maybe do on another episode of Foodie Friday. That would be very fun to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I can get the recipe. It's a fabulous recipe. I don't even I have this wonderful, beautiful, those cookbooks that are full of fabulous pictures.
Yes.
And actually when you make the recipe, it doesn't look at all like that. This cookbook, when you make the recipe, it actually looks like they're pictures. So
wow.
It's a very nice book. It's a vegetarian book.
Okay. Well, that's great.
Vegetarian, so he does most of the cooking, but when I cook, I like to make sure it's something special.
I like it. That's perfect. Yeah. So the next one we have is the hot flash, which at Christmas time. Before we go into that quickly, let's just tell our viewers what is the blend in the rosé, just so they know.
Oh, okay. So our rosé is actually a blush. So it is a blend of Foch, Marshall Foch, French-American red hybrid, and Chardonnay right off of our property.
Wow, that's a really unique combination for a rosé.
Very unique, yeah. We wanted, there's, I don't know, 250 wineries, something like that nowadays. We wanted to make a rosé that was very different. When people go on a wine tour, they go to 3 or 4 wineries. I don't want my rosé to taste exactly the same as the rosé they just had, a kilometer away at a different winery.
Exactly.
I wanted to make it different, and that's why I played a lot on the bench for a long time, trying to find something that I thought was really unique. And I also wanted to make it dry, because a lot of people have gone to a sweeter rosé, and I wanted to offer people an option.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we can move on to the hot flash. And this one I particularly love because for a lot of reds that I drink, they are done in a lot of the oak. This one is not oaked. Am I right?
That's right. It is oaked at ferment, but not, it's an unoaked oak chip we use at ferment, which is going to sound weird, but it's not a toasted oak. So it doesn't have the oak flavor. It's used at ferment just to pull out some of the negative flavors you can get in a red wine. So we just use it right while we're fermenting. We put the untoasted oak chips on, and then they come off at press. So I don't want people to think that it doesn't have any toasted oak, but oak did touch the wine. It just doesn't have any flavor effect to the wine.
Right. And I think that's predominantly what people are looking for when they want maybe something that doesn't have that big tannic bite to it. So that's what I love about this wine, is very smooth. So again, we've got hot flash, and then this one is dressed up for the holidays as Rudolph's Red. And so
Rudolph's Red. Yeah. So we wanted to have, I like having something I'm a big fan of Christmas. I decorate the whole house pretty well. My husband has to put out lights outside, even though he hates being outside in the winter. But I love having stuff on the table that is actually Christmas themed. And that's why we developed Rudolph's Red. Because I also think hot flash as its own, or Rudolph's Red, is a red wine that could carry at the Christmas dinner table too. It wouldn't, if you didn't want to have a rosé with your turkey. Excuse me, it's a medium-bodied red, so it can go from all the way from turkey all the way to roast. So it's a more flexible wine in that way.
Yeah. It's got some nice versatility.
Yeah, that's right. And the reason that it's lower in tannin, as you talked about, that drying that a lot of people get, is because it is predominantly Fauche. It's 65% Marshall Fauche. And what a lot of people don't realize is Fauche is one of the lowest tannic grapes that are growing here in the Okanagan.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
So it naturally has lower tannin in the skins than other grapes do. Yeah. So lots of blackberry and black cherry on this. Black currant, that's more the Fauche flavors. But then for you, you might still get a little bit of spice and little bit of cherry, more light fruit, mid, as you say, medium-bodied fruit in the fruit portfolio of reds. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I get just a little hint of sort of some chocolate, but it's very subtle at the end. And then that just a little touch of spice. It's just very subtle for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. What I like about this wine, and one of the reasons when we first made it, how we made it, was we wanted to make a red wine that you didn't have to have with food, that you could have with food, but was just nice to drink on its own. It wasn't, as you said, heavily oaked. It's not oaked at all. It wasn't full of tannins. It was just a wine that you could just enjoy. Because a lot of people love red wines, and yet often when you have a red wine, you really need something with it. And this one, you don't have to have. So
that's
it's a great book club wine, as it were, because you can just chat and have a glass of wine without, eating as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's not just Netflix wine, but it certainly could be Netflix wine.
Yeah.
That's one of the things you can enjoy with your wine.
Yeah. It's actually really good with popcorn. I've had it with popcorn a couple of times.
Ah, yes, me too, actually. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. But I love popcorn, so.
Well, I find it interesting because so often we think that we're going to have this big red and we should pair it with some beef or, something that's really elegant. But the reality is quite often it is popcorn that we're having with our red wine, or, cheesies or snacky foods, right? So it's nice to have a wine that you can just enjoy 24/7.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect.
That's right.
Well, that is delicious. And so you can see here on my table, there's quite a portfolio of wines that they carry up at House of Rose. So they've got Sweet Mystery, which is a little bit of a sweeter red, which you can serve slightly chilled if you want to, or you can just have it as an aperitif. It's beautiful wine. And I think we call it the white drinker's red? Because
That's
it's
right.
a little, yes, because it's got that little bit, it's a little bit sweeter, and something that, you know, people who are not necessarily haven't moved into red wines yet, this is a good starting place for them.
It also makes, if you like mulled wine in the winter, it makes a fabulous mulled wine. You just need a bottle of that, one cinnamon stick, and about 2 or 3 cloves, and just heat it on the stove. Don't, like, until it starts to steam. Don't let it boil, because that'll boil off all your alcohol. Just till it starts to steam, and it makes a beautiful mulled wine. We'll be serving it at our Christmas sale as a mulled wine. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. So that's a good tip for the holidays. So if you're looking to get, you know, maybe some wine and use the code that we're going to post in the link below, you can actually mix and match any of the wines. And again, we've talked about, if you get a case or more, you do get the 10% off, and then you also get free shipping. But if you don't want to take 12 bottles, you can certainly mix and match 6, and you can pay for the shipping, which is quite minimal, and you still get the 10% off. Plus, with the dessert wines, you get an extra 10%. So it's it's actually a really good deal. And we're going to have the link and the deadline for how long the sale will be up in the description below. And so before, I was going to say, with Hot Flash and the Rudolph's Red, what I find with the Rudolph's Red is it's an awesome, like a hostess gift. If you're going over to just have a dinner party, it's lovely for like a teacher's present, because it's something that's very specific they can use for the holidays. There's so many really great ways to use it, and it's just a beautiful gift idea. So that'll help you hopefully get some of your holiday shopping done. So I'm going to move on to grapes with benefits. So this one, tell us what the blend is on this one, Aura, and what makes it so special, because there's a little secret ingredient in there.
There is. So the blend changes every year, but this blend is Gewürztraminer, a little bit of Chardonnay, just a small amount, and then Riesling. So it's mostly Gewürztraminer and Riesling. And I like the Riesling because it kind of adds that crispness at the back to a sweeter wine, because it is a sweeter wine. And we sweeten it with the addition, that's the secret, of a small amount, about 1% of ice wine. And this is Riesling ice wine that it was used to sweeten it. So it is sweet, but it finishes a little bit crisper and fresh.
Yes. And I love this one. And I say for people that are looking for something, you know, especially maybe newer wine drinkers that, again, aren't used to having those really dry wines on their palate, this one has some beautiful balance to it. It's got that lovely fruit, and it's very fruit forward, but then right when you swallow, it just dries right off, and it's a beautifully balanced wine. So if you want to try something a little different, it's a lot of fun. Grapes with benefits. And then we also have Cool Splash, which is your white blend, which is actually also one of my very favorite blends in my portfolio. And it has the 2019 has some beautiful color to us. Tell us how that happened.
So our Cool Splash is always predominantly Pinot Gris. This Cool Splash is about 70% Pinot Gris. The 2020 will be a little bit less because, like many people in the valley, our Pinot Gris clusters were quite a bit smaller this year. But in any case, it's about 70%. And we do a long cold soak on our Pinot. And what a lot of people don't realize is Pinot Gris is actually a pink skin grape when it ripens. It's green all through the year. And then as it starts to ripen, it actually turns pink. So if you leave the juice and the skins together for a few days, which is what we do, then you get this pinking. And we do it because we love the flavors that the skin gives to the Pinot Gris. It tends to give more peach and apricot than if you just pressed it off right away or did a 20, like a lot of wineries, a lot of winemakers will do a 12 or 24-hour soak on a Pinot. They won't do quite a lot as long as I do, but that's what gives it the pinking. So you get a little bit of pinking when you actually pour a full glass of wine. It has some pinking to it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful blushy color, and we don't have that one open today, but it's really fruity as well, and it does have fruity. That lovely has that beautiful color, but also has a little bit more mouthfeel from having the cold soak on the skins too, right? So it's got a little bit more viscosity in your mouth, but also has that lovely dry finish that you look for with a lovely crisp white blend. So
yeah, that's right.
So that is what we've got going on at the House of Rose. And it's been so great to chat with you today. And thank you so much for enlightening us a little bit about what vegan wine is and how we can look for it and ask better questions. And we've got some amazing deals like we've talked about. So I'll make sure all of that's in the descriptions for everyone. And we wish you the very best for the holidays. I can't even believe we're talking about that quite yet. It feels like this year just flew by.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. So if you haven't had a chance to go up to the House of Rose yet, and you get a chance on the December 12th and 13th, you'll be able to have some personal service with Aura and some beautiful mulled wine, I think, and also some really great deals. And if you can't get there in person, you can visit them on the web, and we'll have all those details for you so you can get some good early Christmas presents. So have a great holiday, and we will look forward to seeing you again on the BC Wine Show. Bye for now, Aura.
Marnie. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining me today on this episode of the BC Wine Show and podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like and subscribe button right down below. If you'd like more information, you can pop over to the bcwineshow.ca and sign up for email updates, where I share tips, recipes, wine suggestions, and other things I simply don't share anywhere else. Until next time, stay well, be kind, and enjoy responsibly.